Welcome to this week's GCN Tech Clinic, where we aim to answer your bike, tech and maintenance related questions that you have been leaving in the comments section underneath our videos using the hashtag askgcntech. We've got Manon and I this week, and we're going to answer as many questions as possible within the allotted time.
We better get started.
Right.
So the first question is in from Mamar92. I recently broke a boa cable at the start of a hill climb race, so that I had to ride with a loose shoe. Can't recommend it. Made me wonder about power transfer losses related to shoes. In my case, how is a loose fitted shoe affecting power transfer? But also, what are the factors, and are there any effects to the stiffness of the sole, etc.?
A sub question within the question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the first one. Power transfer losses, having a loose fitting shoe, whilst I'm going to say it is going to have a small impact, is not going to be the end of the world. I don't think it's going to be hugely detrimental to performance.
Could be going for the win, yeah?
I'm going to throw it out there and say, if Matthew Van der Poel can win the world champs with a broken boa lace, I think the rest of us are going to be okay.
No excuses really, is there?
But on the subject of shoe sole stiffness, I've seen quite a few articles and experiments that have been done, and a lot of them are suggesting that it isn't really having a significant impact on performance, which is kind of like the opposite to what your mind and brain wants to tell you. So
It surprises me, that.
Yeah, don't think that you need to throw all of your money in the world's most expensive cycling shoes.
Because I feel like, especially when you look at shoes, when you look at the, the budget end of shoes, they tend to be quite flexible, a bit more flexible, and then you look at the higher end, they're like rock solid.
So you got to think of it, the easiest way to think of this, a stiff cycling shoe is great for comfort when you're on the bike because it's going to reduce the amount of stress going through your foot. But when you get off the bike, it's absolutely useless for walking around in.
But that's not what they're made for.
Yeah, that's not what they're made for. But if you are someone that's going to be a bit on and off the bike, maybe commuting, getting around town, you might want a shoe that's a bit more flexible so you can actually walk in it. So kind of pick the trade-off of what suits your riding best.
And one other thing to add, I broke my boa dial back when I was racing, but I wasn't actually a racer, I was training on the track, and I just sent BOA a picture and they just sent me a new one.
Lifetime warranty on lots of those, so really good.
Yeah, if you haven't replaced it already.
Okay, Corbyn's bum next. Hi team, love the show, hoping you can offer some advice. Yes, I think we can. I'm about to fly from Australia to Europe with my gravel bike, running 47mm tubeless tyres. When packing the bike, should I deflate the tyres completely and remove the sealant, adding new sealant on arrival, or would you recommend leaving a certain amount of pressure in the tyres and leaving the sealant in?
That sounds like a lot of work if you were to take everything out, put it all back in when you got there. By the time you do it all, your holiday's going to be over and it's going to be time to come home.
You're all about the easy life.
Yeah. Well, I used to take the air out my tyres and do all that stuff just because the people at check-in told me to, but now I've stopped doing that and it's been absolutely fine.
I'm kind of the same mindset of you. I would deflate the tyres slightly so that the sealant stays in place and you shouldn't have any problems like that. That's what I do when I'm travelling around with tubeless tyres, which we all know I love. But if you are concerned by the risk of the tyre popping off a bead or leaking sealant everywhere, maybe just opt for the simple option of running an inner tube and you got less hassle and mess.
That's true.
So, there you go. Next question.
Next question is in from PJRN Hankon
Ijokoi. Yeah, close.
I live in
Malaysia,
where midday temperatures can easily reach an excess of 40 degrees, and I'm planning to move to the UAE where temperatures can get even higher. I'm using Silica drip on wax, however I notice when I rewax a new chain the wax doesn't set properly unless I place my bike in an air-conditioned room. How effective is using wax in such hot weather conditions, and are there any tips for ensuring the wax sets properly despite the high temperatures and additional heat from friction?
So, Ollie is the wax nerd, but I'm pretty
You're kind of second
tier wax nerd. Look, so the drip on wax is an emulsion. So when you apply it, water has to evaporate out and then it dries. Understandably, you're then left with wax on the chain, and as the wax gets hot, it goes softer. But from my experience, the drip on wax goes softer at a lower temperature than the hot melt wax. So if you are going to be riding in like really hot climates and conditions, I would suggest not using the drip on wax, but using the hot melt wax, because from the riding that I've done, I found that to be a little bit better suited to the hot conditions. And when I was in Australia at the start of the year, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I went out there, the drip on wax was going soft in like the peak temperature of the day.
So I never even thought about that, but that probably is a problem if you are in really hot countries.
Or just don't worry about using a wax product and use like a good quality oil-based lubricant and don't worry about it.
True, could do that.
Slick Cycler, great username. Hi Alex and Ollie. I have a 2014 Trek Madone with a compact chain set and 11-speed 11 to 28 cassette. Lots of cycling each year, but it's flat where I live. I've signed up to the Cabot Trail, which is in Canada. In a few months, it's got some very steep and long climbs. Question 1, what sort of training do we suggest that they do to improve their climbing skills? And question 2, should I change the above setup for this ride? Question 1, you go first.
Right, it's probably quite hard to train for climbing if you're not in a hilly area.
Yeah.
But I'd suggest maybe if you live near or, driving distance to a climb, maybe just one day as a one-off, just drive out to a climb. It doesn't have to be a mega mountain. If it's just one steep climb that's less than a K, that's absolutely fine. And you can just do hill reps just to get yourself used to it.
Yeah.
If that's not an option, then I guess, go on the turbo trainer, do some, big gear efforts, get out the saddle, practice riding out the saddle, that sort of thing. But I think, definitely trying to find some sort of climb to practice on, just to get the feel of, when you're going uphill out the saddle, where to put your body position, all that. That's going to be really helpful.
I think the turbo trainer is going to be their friend here to help mimic the efforts that you're going to be doing. Like anything in life, practice makes perfect. So if you can get to somewhere hilly, try your absolute best to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have to use the turbo trainer.
Yeah.
And in terms, go on.
Sorry, you could also get this is the Wahoo climb where you can put your front
the
forks in, and it'll kind of lift your bike up to resemble climbing up a hill.
That same position, I think that's important as well. Ollie would always suggest that mimicking that position is really important to do. In terms of the gearing, I think a 50-34 compact chain set is a good starting point, but it's kind of going to vary depending on your fitness, your body weight, and all sorts of factors. But if your rear derailleur can handle it, I would look to go for a bigger cassette, maybe like a 30.
You always want an extra gear,
yeah,
especially if it's hilly ride. So.
I would suggest fit the biggest cassette that your derailleur can handle, and it's better to have too many easy gears than not enough.
Yeah. Another question in from Max. Any hacks for removing sealant from the rim of the frame once it's dried?
Oh, well, it kind of depends on what tubeless sealant you're using, because some of them set like absolute concrete.
Yeah.
But if you're using a latex-based one, sometimes they just peel off super easy. There's lots of sealant removing products out there which you kind of spray on and then they soften up the sealant to help you remove it. Sometimes you can just simply wipe them off even when they've dried with a soft cloth. But if when you've been out riding, grit or dust has got into that sealant and then it's dried, you really do run the risk of scratching all your paintwork up. So I would start to use a product that could soften the sealant and then try and wash it off first, because you don't want to scratch your paint up. Would you say you're happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Covered it all.
All right. Next question is from DXM Fan. They say, hi GCN, I recently went down a steep hill that left me no choice but to brake continuously. I know we're not supposed to do that, but the heat went pretty high. Now my disc brake rotors have changed colour. Although they seem to work normally for the remainder of the ride, should I be worried for the next ride? Are they at risk of breaking and should I replace them? I would say it sounds like you just overheated the rotors, and unfortunately you're going to need to get new ones.
So has the discoloration come from just how hot it's got?
Yeah, it's just heat. They're not like worn too thin or anything, but the metal is overheated. If you are overheating your brakes, firstly, I think it's about refining your braking technique and also making sure that you can't just fit larger disc brake rotors to your bike. 160 is kind of standard, so go around those sort of areas. Otherwise, new rotors are in order, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, cool. Right, that's it for this week's GCN Tech Clinic. As always, I'm going to apologise if we didn't answer your question, but be persistent and put it in the comments section down below, and we'll probably get to it in the coming weeks. We're out of here. Right.
Thank you. See you soon.